Today's video is going to be a little bit different than usual because the format is different, and I want to actually hear your feedback about what you think of it. The format is longer and it's also more casual, less scripted, and way more unfiltered, which is going to be fun because I have brought in my friend to sit down with me and to have a casual chit chat. And we're going to talk about leveling up, we're going to talk about love and relationships, and we're going to dissect how one can meet their future husband and what to look out for. So the friend that is joining me today, her name is Alexis, and she comes from an island in the Caribbean called Curacao. So just like me, she comes from a regular background, but has been able to level up her life, even though she lives on this tiny island in the Caribbean, to the life of her dreams. We're going to talk about exactly what she did. We're also going to actually talk about this story when I tried setting Alexis up with a single friend of mine, this really wealthy, successful bachelor who I thought was the perfect catch because he looked perfect on paper. But the point with this story is that when she actually started to get to know him, although everything looked so perfect and many women would be like wanting to be with a man like that, it's only when you get to know them that you really find out if it's ever going to work and what the truth actually is. So no, it didn't work out, but we are definitely going to talk about some of those lessons that she learned from that relationship. But besides that, there's going to be loads of tips in today's video how you can get your happily ever after. And if you are a little bit short of time, you can always check the description box below because we have actually timestamps that with all the chapters. So I hope you'll enjoy today's video. Let's start with the video. You leveled up by taking yourself from being an island girl who didn't want to just be an island girl. You wanted more of life. So what action steps did you take to move to the next step?
In what sense you mean with my life?
Well, yeah, so what did you do? So what was your plan? Like, did you strategize things, or were you like, no, I'm going to go study now, I'm going to go work somewhere else now?
Yeah, so I did go to university in Europe. I ended up working in financial districts, and I didn't choose that for my career because I thought that being in a financial district would mean that I could find a husband. So most of my time was being a party girl and strategizing to find a husband. And the funny thing is that the moment I dropped all of that, I found a husband.
That is so funny.
That's hilarious. And on an island.
There's this, I mean, can we just say the common cliche, when you least expect it, that's when you find.
I used to hate that.
It's so true.
Yeah, it's true though.
When you stop trying, it happens.
I hear that so often.
Why is it like this? Please leave a comment below and explain this mystery.
It's I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I guess it takes also knowing what you want, right? And going for it while not being too obsessed with it.
But I know that you were a true negative Nancy, because that's what you said about yourself.
Yeah.
How negative were you? Like, give me some examples.
So the funny thing with me was that I was very internally negative towards myself. So with friends, I would be very positive. I would be like, oh, like you can do it, rah, rah, cheerlead for everyone else. But I wasn't cheerleading for me. I was very destructive towards myself, very judgy towards myself. You're not good enough, you can't do it, you're not pretty enough, that's why you don't get a second date. So my internal judgment was at an all-time high. But if you're having that internal negative self-dialogue, is it self-dialogue?
Yeah.
Is that what you say? Yeah. It's very hard to see who's in front of you and to connect because you're so busy with your own shit that you just can't connect.
What do you think made you, I don't know, lucky, or what made you meet your partner?
Oh, that's a good question.
Not in a judgmental way.
No, it's something that I talk about a lot with my clients, is that our students, you have to be authentically yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with who you are and be at ease with who you are. I think that was my difference. And it's also about us meeting each other in a moment where we were both ready or starting to get ready for that next step. Because maybe if I met him 2 years before, it would have been different. So I guess it's also timing. Yeah.
But I also think it's because of all the work you did on yourself.
Yeah, that too, obviously.
Not work like, oh, you did it, because I don't think you did anything.
No, nothing.
But like the spiritual, the inner work that you did.
No, that helps so much. Because I think, and we talk about it a lot, that if I met him and I was toxic Alexis, I'm not sure if it would have worked out. Because I would have pushed him away as I usually did in the past. I pushed everyone away.
So I would say, if there are any ladies out there who are, if you're honest with yourself and you work a little bit with self-awareness and you can admit that, no, you know what? I think I am maybe investing the most time in trying to level up my, I don't know, appearance or something. And I'm actually not investing so much leveling up my mindset, my this and that, then think again. Because that might be the reason to why you are not proceeding and why maybe you have plateaued.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I spend so much time trying to look pretty and, you know, the hair, the extensions, the makeup, all those things, the weight, but there's only so much the exterior can do. If the inside is troubled, like you can't connect with someone, you don't trust anyone, how are you going to step into a relationship? I mean, you can attract them, but you want to be happy in a relationship. You don't want to be walking on eggshells all the time.
No, that is true. And that's why I think many of you ladies know I have a course called Secrets of the Elite Woman. And that's why in that course we do like an entire, I don't know, mindset, confidence, boundaries, transformation, but also we do work with like style and appearance to some degree, elegance too, because I mean, you do have to polish some things up.
Absolutely. We are polished today.
Yeah.
So.
We want to look our best because if we didn't, then obviously the choices would be less for us.
But that's something that it's so misunderstood that people are a very black and white thinking. Like it's 100% this, 100% that. It's finding that balance, right? The inner and the outer, and that's recipe for success. So absolutely.
Why there is this also stereotype that actually is, I think, among maybe the community of women who wish to level up. They think like to level up, you level up in one specific way, and that's it. Like there's only one way to level up, and that is you have to like end up on a yacht, you have to fly private jet, you have to always be on vacation and jet set hotspots. You have to be now with the in crowd. You have to go to all these glamorous events, red carpets, you name it. And that is the level up.
I mean, that's a level up for a select few, I guess. And if that makes them happy, sure. But for me, it was all facade in the end when I realized, when I actually went to those places, I met the people. I had great experiences. I met great people, but I still remember I was in Paris at this hottest nightclub, bottle service everywhere, very handsome CEO of a very renowned brand, which shall not be named. And he had all these people around him, all these bottles. And at the end of the night, when he brought us home in a taxi, dropped us off first, I just saw sadness in his face. Here's this handsome man with this successful career going home by himself, almost crying. And I think that was one of the moments that I realized, okay, it's all great. Like he got all the perfect pictures for Instagram and he has all these friends, but where are they now? And I remember asking him, is everything okay? He's like, no, not at all.
What was going on?
I don't know what was going on, but before he was like, you know, smiling and happy.
Keeping
appearances. And yeah, and ultimately not so much. And I saw that a lot when I was partying and doing those things. So you start to realize, okay, was I attracted to that lifestyle because I was also superficial?
Yeah.
Highly likely, yes. The answer is yes. And once I started to explore the depths of who I was okay with who I was. I settled down and I actually became happy. And there's nothing wrong with all of that.
No, it's not. And I think that many of us go through that journey. Some continue on that journey because that feels right for them, right?
Exactly.
But I think we have to also think about that. There's many of us who feel like, okay, this is not right for me. And I think it's very normal to feel like that. I remember, you know, I started blogging. You remember Jet Set Babe, my old blog?
Yeah, good old days, I have to say.
Good old days. Yeah, I started that blog in 2012. And I would say that was kind of the peak time when I had kind of just really leveled up myself. I mean, obviously my level up continued, but really felt like, okay, now I have leveled up myself. Now I have this experience. Now I know like all kinds of people, important people. I get to experience loads of things. Because I was driven to reach that because of, you know, this kind of fantasy.
Yeah.
That like
it's a dream, a fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, that like TV has pushed on us. Today it's Instagram and TikTok maybe that pushes that on us. And I remember blogging during my days, and I always used to say I could never do this full time because it's not for me.
In what sense? What about it?
Because I think like the whole jet set circuit, the jet set bubble, like let's say being like a full-time trophy wife, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And I realized that pretty quickly around that time in my life, where I just felt like something is missing. Like it is fun. Like it is fun in small doses.
And like we also travel a lot, and it's fine, but. Yeah, I can't imagine. Before I thought, just like you, maybe this is what I should aspire to do, just traveling, doing all these things. But there's so much fulfillment in just true human connection and friendships. And it doesn't matter where you are. Of course, we travel, we do nice things, but what matters most is the company of the people that you're with. And I know it sounds super cliche. Some of you are rolling your eyes. I see you. But that's my experience, and that's your experience. And there are other experiences too.
Yeah, I remember once I was, traveling with someone that I didn't feel like we had a connection. And I was asking myself, like, who would I want to be here with? And then I realized that, no, you know what? You have to prioritize the connection, the spirit, because without it, it's pointless. Because I felt like I was at this beautiful location, full luxury. I couldn't enjoy it because the soul was missing.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But I think there are two kinds of, let's say, people. Those who are maybe more like you and me, who need that kind of spiritual fulfillment somehow. But then there are those who don't really care about it so much.
Yeah, and again,
and it's fine.
To each their own.
Yeah. Right?
And I'm pretty sure if I watched this podcast when I was completely convinced that this is the way, like the black and white thinking, that I would have also rolled my eyes like, yeah, no, give me the jet set. That's more fun. That other side sounds boring, but you truly don't know until you experience it. And that was for me the changer, right?
Yeah.
Experiencing it.
Yeah, I think it is healthy to, like, if you are curious, go out there and gain that experience.
Absolutely.
If you can trust me and Alexis on our word, yes, we can save you time, you know? But I think, of course, there's something invaluable trying it out yourself. Because the same way I tried out, you know, and I just felt, you know what, I love it, but only in small doses. That's not for me full time. I prefer something a little bit more down to earth.
Yeah.
And I think what you were describing now, that you're just like, you know, living your kind of simple life in Curacao.
Yeah.
Even though you are living a very comfortable life.
Yeah, I mean, we travel a lot and that's great, but it's just, I can't even describe the difference between Alexis's life before and now, or my life before and now. I'm just much happier now that I'm okay with being myself.
Yeah.
And having actual connections with people that care about me, and yeah, those friendships are also great. And there are lots of friendships that were fine, but once I was able to open up, that's when you deepen the friendships and the relationships around you.
So true. How did you meet this fiance? Oh, I haven't seen it. Oh my gosh, I love it. I haven't seen it yet, ladies. Oh,
I get shy.
It's beautiful. It's so classy.
Thank you.
I love it. So,
it's my dream ring.
how did you two meet? End of September, you said.
So end of September, I moved back to Curacao. End of August, I made a Tinder profile, believe it or not. And I thought, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I know what I want. I want to meet multiple men, get to know them on a personal level, and see where it takes me. That's what happened. So I made a Tinder account, uploaded some cute pictures, not much information on there. I put that I love traveling. And yeah, that's how we met.
I need to ask you, why did you choose Tinder of all the platforms? Because Tinder doesn't have a great reputation.
I know, and when I talk to my clients as well, Tinder has a really bad reputation, but from what I've understood is that Tinder has the biggest funnel of men coming in. So that's most
Right.
important. The more men means the more chance of success of meeting the one.
So you
Yeah.
were strategizing according to quantity.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And in the end, it's about you filtering what you get, right? You have to get to know them, and it clicks or it doesn't click.
And then what happened? So, I mean, I have to ask this question. Did you reach out to him first, or did he reach out to you
No,
first?
so he reached out to me, and it's actually quite an interesting story because we matched 2 times before. And the first time was in Curacao, the second time was in London, which is very odd. And the third time I thought, you know what, before, obviously I don't know what I'm doing. So I need to give someone a chance. I need to make sure that I broaden my perspective. And I'm so glad that I did, Anna, because that was the game changer for me. Yeah.
What was the first impression you got when he slid into your DMs, basically? DMs on Tinder, I mean.
To be very honest, he did not have the best profile. His
Really?
pictures were not the best.
Wait, can you describe a little bit his pictures? Like, what did you see? Could be honest now. You have to tell the ladies the truth.
Yeah, so I'm very open about it because I believe that oftentimes we think that the perfect profile means the perfect man. It was not the perfect profile. I think like he just picked a few pictures that were spontaneous.
Okay, tell me, how did they look like?
They were not coordinated in the sense that he was wearing a suit or he was just wearing regular day clothes. He was having fun. He was drinking wine. And I could see his character in it, so I thought, okay, he seems like a fun guy, so let's just get to know him. There was not much information on there, so I really did not know what I was walking into. I just gave him a chance.
Okay. Did he have a lot of text in his profile?
No, not much,
No?
no. And I know lots of women say, oh, you need to study the text, you need to study the pictures to see if he's someone who's serious. You really do not know until you meet him.
Well, when I was single, I also did loads of online dating, because how do you meet people these days?
Exactly.
Actually, let me give you a fun fact before I continue that. There's actually new statistics that show that before, people used to primarily meet through friends or work. That has changed now.
Yeah?
People meet primarily online these days.
I believe that. Yeah.
Statistics have changed, just like a little FYI. Anyway, back in the days when I was single and used to do a lot of online dating, I used to find that the men who write as little as possible on their profiles was actually the best guys.
I think you're right because I know lots of women, and there's lots of talks about the Tinder swindler and things like
Right.
that. You have to be very careful because a profile could look like the perfect man. He can say the right things, but you don't know until you meet him, and your intuition can tell you whether someone is good for you or not.
I also think like when a profile is like too polished, I feel like, okay, someone is trying to polish a turd here.
Yeah, no, yeah. So when I help my clients, sometimes they send me screenshots like, oh my God, Alexis, this is the perfect man. And it's like super elaborate and pictures like, like almost Photoshopped. And I say, well, just meet him first. You don't know who someone is. You don't even know if he exists, right? So he might be some bogus person in a different country pretending to be some handsome bachelor. Well, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I feel like there are many women, I also know that from my line of work, can have a bit of a perfectionistic mindset where they feel like, oh, no, there is this mistake in this profile, therefore I cannot meet him, he's probably a loser, right? And they dismiss the person, although he might be amazing or something.
Yeah, that was my problem because I was focusing too much on finding the perfect profile that would save me from heartbreak. That does not exist. Following your intuition and meeting them, that's what helps in the end, yeah.
Yeah, really important. Do you remember what he wrote to you in the first DM?
To be honest, he was slow. Like he asked a lot of questions about me. He wanted to know everything about me. And then we went off the platform and we were on WhatsApp, and that's when he asked me to go out to have dinner. Yeah.
How long were you WhatsApping before he invited you out?
Not so long. To be
Okay.
honest, I'm not a big WhatsApper, and it was a very busy time in my life, so I didn't have time to, stalk my phone and be like, okay, I need to text back. So it was very natural, easy flowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what made you feel like, okay, this is, he seems like a guy that I definitely should meet in person. Like, what was it that led you to that?
Oh, it's the first time anyone ever asked me this. I think for him, it was the genuine interest in me as a person, asking questions, getting to know me as a person versus, I know lots of women say, okay, a man should ask you out right away, but he was a bit slow. He was asking questions, but I felt like he was genuine and he wanted to get to know me as a person before getting me on a date right away.
Just as a like background so that we can build an idea of your partner. I know that of course he's a private person, just like my husband. He doesn't want to have his name out there or whatever, that we share too much details. But can you just, because I know he's quite successful.
Yeah, he's successful, but for me that was nice because him being that successful person and also believing in me
Yeah.
brought out a different side of me that was quite interesting because through his tips and his success, I could actually feel myself wanting to be successful too, not just
Okay.
being arm candy on the side.
Yeah. And I know that because when you met him, he was also living in Curacao, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
he's not from Curacao. You don't have to say
No.
where he's from.
Yeah.
But so he's an expat there.
Yes.
And because I find it a bit interesting, because I know, like, of course, I have some friends who live in the Caribbean, and they always want to go abroad because they think they cannot find men on their island, let's say.
Yeah, that was me, ladies. So if you feel like that was me. And I did. I thought, okay, Curacao is too small. If I want someone to spend the rest of my life with, I have to look abroad. So I was traveling, I was working abroad. And in these big cities, I just couldn't find love. And it was the moment that I worked on myself, even in a small island of 160,000 people, I found the one, which is miraculous. So if you ladies listening at home, if you believe your city is too small, it's fine. 160,000 people, Curacao, I found love. So
Definitely, and you can find love even in smaller places.
yes, you can. Absolutely.
I mean, one of the things that I've always said is that, to have a successful strategy in dating, there are like two strategies really. You go, like you said, you go to, like, let's say Paris, London, New York, you go into the masses. Yes, you're going to be dealing with high quantity of eligible bachelors.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of competition there. There's a lot of distraction.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions. I guess there are lots of guys that are not ready to settle down. But I still believe if you're serious, you will find a guy that's serious no matter where you are. New York, Caribbean.
I mean, I met my husband in London, and he wasn't living in London. He was living in Geneva. I could have literally found him in Geneva too, which is also a smaller city.
Yeah.
But I do believe, like, whenever people ask me, Anna, what do you recommend? Actually, I primarily recommend that you go away from the big cities and you go smaller. Because even like when I have been, let's say, on trips, like I went to like Bali, I went to like, I don't know, Latin America, I went to like these random places. And I was always able to find, interesting people there.
Yeah, I think I never really thought about it. But yeah, I think being in Curacao was great for me in the end. Because, I don't really like to talk about competition because I think that if you're authentically yourself, it's fine. But I do feel like in the bigger cities, the men might take their time a little bit more.
Yes.
Not to generalize, but yes, I see this trend.
Let's call it distraction.
Yeah.
I mean, competition, I don't think that's the right word, so I'll take it back. But definitely distraction. There's just too much going on.
Yeah.
So it's harder for them to really focus, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, when I was in Bali, I met someone there ages ago, before my husband, and it was all thanks to there wasn't too much distraction. It's a calm island, and it's easier to connect with someone. To have proper conversations, to be able to meet up more easily. And I don't know.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
But going back to your fiance, so how was it? Like, was it love at first sight?
It was not love at first sight. It was connection at first sight.
Like, what kind of connection?
I just don't know how to explain it. First of all, when I sat down, his pictures did not do him justice. He looked great in person. So I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I felt attracted. But when we started to talk over dinner, it turned into drinks afterwards, and it was one of the most fun dates that I've ever been on. And I thought, wow, he's just so easy to talk to, and he's such a great guy. And that connection was, I felt safe with him. I felt at ease. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So what did you do on your first date? You just like went for a nice meal somewhere?
He took me out to an Italian restaurant. Yeah, it was lovely.
Nice.
But in the end, I didn't really pay attention to the food. Of course, we had wine, we had a good time. But the conversation was just flowing, and I felt like I could be myself with him. And I think that's what ultimately made that connection work.
Well, I guess if a guy makes you feel like yourself, then you make a better lasting impression on him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think also being in a space and time when I went back that I was comfortable with myself. I was not trying to impress him. I was just being my authentic self. And that's what I think connected us in the end.
How was the first year for you? And there is a specific reason to why I'm asking this. Because from my experience, both with myself, but honestly, even most people that I know, the first year seems to follow a specific pattern for most couples. It seems to often be a bit up and down.
Okay.
Not necessarily like with breakups and awful fights, but more so it can still feel a bit, of a bumpy ride sometimes.
Yeah, and I think first I didn't understand that. I was a serial dater in a sense that it was not hard for me to find boyfriends, but it was hard for me to connect with them. And I think after the 3 to 6 month threshold, you have to choose to open yourself up and be intimate with someone and let them see sides of you that are kind of scary. And I think with him, since he made me feel so comfortable, it was an easier thing to do. And as I opened up, and that was the rocky part, right? Do you trust someone enough to open your heart and to tell him how you feel and to tell him what you truly want? In my case, it was marriage. Before, I never talked about marriage because I thought it would be too needy or too desperate. But I was in a moment where I thought, okay, no, I feel good with him. I feel good with myself, and marriage is what I want. And it was the first time that I could actually open up and say that to someone.
So when did you tell him about that you are expecting a ring?
Yeah, so before I was not as confident to have that open conversation. So like most women, I kind of dropped the hints. But for me, what was truly the game changer is actually having a conversation, a deep heart-to-heart conversation, and say, you know what, I think you're wonderful, but I would like to be a wife someday. And that was a big realization for myself. It had nothing to do with him. Of course, he was there and I loved him and all of that. But it was the first time in my life that I was able to say that out loud for myself. And it was such a liberating moment.
And what time frame are we talking about? Like, did you drop it in month 1, month 3?
No. So in the beginning, as I said, it was hard for me because I've had several proposals before that I had to shut down because ultimately I was not ready to open up my heart and connect. It took some time for me to get to the point that I was comfortable saying that. So I think within a year or so, we had that conversation. And shortly after, I think around February, he proposed.
Well, I think you kind of did the right thing because you were hinting. Because I understand that it's common that men don't want to feel pressured, but women, we have to pressure a bit. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's our need, and we have to find a compromise with the man, right?
Yeah, you just have to be sure that he's on the same path. And I know there are many dating experts that will disagree with me, but I think that if you're confident, and especially if you've passed the age of 30 and you want marriage, there's no point beating around the bush, pretending like you don't want marriage, dropping hints, or if you want babies, whatever it is, it takes confidence to stand up for yourself and say, listen, I love you. And you're not breaking him down. You're just saying, this is what I want as well. And that's important to communicate.
Yeah, and one of the things that I feel personally is that I think it's almost a little bit sexist in our society that women feel like we should be ashamed out of pressuring men for babies, for marriage, when it's such a strong need in us. It's a natural need for many of us. Why should we kind of restrain and hold back when men are not holding back, that they need to, let's say, sleep every so-and-so days with someone?
Yeah, I feel like for men, it's much easier to let their needs be known. And for women, we're people pleasers because that's how we're brought out to be. Like as women, little girls, you have to be nice. You have to not be too aggressive. Don't be bossy. Don't be bitchy. So it's very tough for women to know how to act even without, to communicate without being labeled as a B.
Yes. And ladies, it's all up to all of us to keep changing this narrative, because if we don't take space, there's not going to be any change. But at the same time, I am a person, I don't believe that, okay, it's just the way we want, forget what men want. It doesn't work like that. We have to find a middle ground. We have to be able to compromise.
Yeah, and that is something that I see with my clients as well. Women have a long list of demands, but you have to realize that there's another human being in the relationship as well. It's not just what your wants and needs. It's okay to state them, but it's a request. And then it's up to him to let you know whether he can fulfill that request or not. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It's a partnership.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't have to pressure about marriage and kids in the first date or two.
No, I don't recommend that. And that is the problem as well when I see women like, you're like, I need to be married within 3 months and I need to have the discussion about kids. Get to know the person first. Like, it's date number 1. You only know his name and that he has nice teeth and his job, or that he likes white wine. What else do you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Take your time, ladies.
Definitely take your time.
But still don't waste too much time.
I wanted to ask you, because I know, of course, that your partner, he has a kid, a child, one child, right, from
One
before.
child, yeah.
And I think that that's becoming very common for women, more and more so, because, of course, we oftentimes like men who are older than us. Your partner is not that much older than you.
No, he's 45.
Yeah, so it's a good age difference.
I think it's perfect.
Yes. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Perfect. How many age difference is that then?
It's like insert meme.
It's like, okay, maths. Okay, I'm not good at maths. So for me and my husband, it's 11 years.
Yeah, I
age
think
difference.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Something similar. Okay.
12.
Well, 12. Right. But anyway, I think it's like, it's actually a big deal that my husband has no previous marriages, no kids in his previous life, which is almost becoming a rarity these days.
Yeah. And so to circle back on that, to be very honest, having that very long list of demands was, I didn't want someone who had children. But that was just a bogus thing on the list, because once I experienced him having a son, seeing him with his son, that is what ultimately melted my heart. And he feels like a son to me now too. He's just so wonderful. Yeah.
That is so nice.
Yeah. And ladies, you have to always give people a chance, right? It's easy to have a long list, but you don't know until you experience it.
In the initial dating stages, men can be so flaky, so unpredictable, so confusing. How was your guy?
He was consistent.
Really?
Yeah, he was consistent. He texted, but to be very honest, I wasn't sitting around with a timer trying, because I had my own life. I had my own things going on. I was my business was growing. I was working in finance, so I was legitimately busy. But he was consistent. I never had to second guess his intentions. He was always moving towards me, and I think that is, for you ladies at home that are listening, that is the hint that someone is a good man. If he's moving in your direction, he's not playing games, he's not hot and cold. So, I've been through that too. Yeah, that's not fun. So when you have someone that is legitimately wanting to know you, asking you on dates, texting you, calling you, good signs.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I met my husband too. It was something different about also his approach. Because usually, even if I also had a few partners who would be very interested and very courting, if you can say it like that, and maybe chasing you a bit, but there was something different about my husband. He literally called me every day, and I was like, who calls you every day these days? Nobody.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
People
Yeah.
text, and no, he was very traditional, wanted to speak on the phone.
That's good.
Yeah, and we built up a relationship like that, because I didn't take him seriously in the beginning, because he was young. He just didn't really seem like the guy who was going to settle down anytime soon.
Yeah, but in the end he did.
Yeah, in the end he did. Again, you can't dismiss men based on some perception or first impression sometimes.
It's about that connection and how it makes you feel.
So I want to talk about the London guy.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know. So so because Alexis, as you know, I introduced to you, she helps women attract quality men and also become more confident. So dating is definitely one of your strongest skills.
Yeah, because I've been there. A
Oh
lot.
yes. And the reason why we're jumping now in her dating CV
I'm fine with that.
is because I'm actually involved in the story. And
Yeah, no, nobody knows actually. A few
Nobody
people
knows.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever spoken about this publicly.
I never have, no.
So what it was that was quite interesting with this person, well, he was my friend, right? And
Yeah.
then fast forward, he became your friend.
Became my special friend, yeah.
So what happened was that I thought that, okay, I have this, we call him the London guy. I have the London guy. He's single. And I actually think that he should mingle. And you're single. I
Yeah.
actually think you two would make a perfect match.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and you know what? There's like so much you can predict. Even
Yeah.
as someone who is a certified matchmaker, I think, I don't know, maybe I did a bad job. I don't know.
Oh, in the
But-
end, you know, and here's something that women don't like to look at. It's very easy to blame it all on the guy, but I was right in there too, and I was emotionally unavailable at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard.
Well, to kind of give a little introduction of what happened, because we have to dissect this a little bit more. Alexis ended up in a relationship with a London guy, and it was a turbulent relationship, which actually, I think you can call it a bit destructive.
Yeah, it was destructive in the end because I was not in a good place, and I hoped that this relationship would fix all of the things that were going wrong in my life. So I invested all of that energy into it, thinking that it was going to save me and make me happy again. And in the end, I realized it's the other way around.
I think what you just said is exactly what many do, including myself. So I've been very open that I went to therapy like 10 months before I met my husband.
Yeah.
And before that, I was literally looking for someone who could save me for a long time.
Yeah.
And nobody did.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so important to work on yourself first. So
Because you have to save yourself.
But you also see that your dating experience, and correct me if I'm wrong, is much different when you've done the work on yourself. You're less triggered and you attract better people, at least in my experience.
That is true. And what was interesting in this case with the London guy is that I also have this theory. Well, I keep seeing this pattern with many people that I meet and friends that I have, is that before they meet the guy, like the future husband, many seem to have this kind of destructive relationship right before, or this bad partner before.
Yeah.
And I always feel like it's, I call it like the guy before the guy. It's
like
that. Well, it's like
the guy before the guy.
Yeah, it's like the bad guy that gave you that wake up. But only there's a catch, because there are many women who get a wake-up call, but they don't learn from this wake-up call. They keep redoing this mistake.
Yeah.
But not in your case.
Not in my case. I think I remember being on a call with you where I was just ranting about how everything's just so horrible, relationships not working out. And you were the listening ear. So you were like, yeah. And it was just in that split second that I heard myself ranting, being negative Nancy, that I woke up and I thought, what the hell is going on? I'm not happy in my life. I'm not happy in this relationship. I'm not authentically myself. I keep thinking that the more I do, the more I perform, I might be worthy of a relationship with this person, but it just didn't feel right to me. So that was my wake-up call, yeah.
I mean, I was a bit surprised that you just boldly decided one day, no, I can't be with him.
Yeah. So the call was the way that I woke up.
Right.
To see, and I don't know, I'm an interesting person. Once I wake up, it's easy for me to just jump into action. And I felt like that was like the ultimate wake-up call for me.
You know, one of the questions that I have about the call, because I mean, women rant about something and vent with their girlfriends on a daily basis about
They do.
some guy that misbehaved. But why, that's exactly what you did with me. But why did you have a wake-up call because of that?
I think in that moment I was so deeply unhappy
Okay.
that something in me just woke up and said, enough is enough. There's something wrong here. Clearly, I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to relationships, because I had all of these relationships, but I wasn't happy. I didn't know exactly what the problem was. As I said, it was easy to manifest the guy, but what about the happiness with the guy? I couldn't nail that one. And I think that was the wake up call. Okay, there's something that needs to change and I need to figure this out.
Okay. Was it like you could almost like listen to yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's exactly what it was. I heard myself ranting, and it's like I saw myself from a third person perspective, ranting, being negative, being unhappy. And I thought, okay, this is not it. This is not what life is about. Something needs to change. And I think that's what really kind of put me into action for choosing myself and trying to figure out what was wrong. What was wrong with me?
No, but first of all, it wasn't only you. I mean, he was a bit of work, wasn't he?
Yeah, but then here's the thing. When you have two people that are not able to open themselves up, you have your guards up, it's very hard to connect with someone. And that's the difference between me then and me meeting my now to-be husband, is that I was finally in a place that I was okay with myself. I wasn't performing for love, if you know what I mean. Before I was performing, I was walking on eggshells. I tried to be perfect, and that's not a way to live. And that's not a way to attract love either, I believe.
No. And it's interesting because I was very shocked. I mean, I still, just to talk about the London guy a bit more, because I still hold him dearly. I think he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. I think so, yeah.
And I think he would be a great partner for someone. But what we don't always realize is that sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, often, none of us is perfect, by the way.
Yeah.
But there are people who have more issues that they have to deal with, and they maybe don't deal with those issues.
Yeah, and the problem when you don't deal with your issues is that you will not recognize when someone else is struggling, and it's just going to be a toxic dynamic where you want to blame him. But it's kind of codependent in a sense that neither of you want to address the big elephant in the room, which is things are not working out. And you walk on eggshells together, and that's just not a real relationship.
No.
Toxic is an overused term, but it's just not healthy, I would say.
No, and I mean, because we both know him so well, he's not a toxic person.
No, that's why you matched me with him.
Yeah, exactly. I was certain it would really it would work.
That's what I thought too. But again, when it comes to love, it's not only the match, it's also being ready, being able to trust yourself, be authentically yourself, not walk on eggshells.
That's true. But also be prepared that the person that you might be now getting to know might have his demons.
Yeah, he might have his demons and he might not be the one. And when you have someone that looks so good on paper, and especially when a friend introduces you, there's this added pressure that things need to go well. And I really wanted to make it work, because who doesn't want to be at a wedding and be like, well, she was the one who introduced us, and that's so romantic. So we see all these Hollywood movies and we think, okay, this is how love is supposed to be like. But in the end, love is love. You can't predict love. Yeah.
No, you can't. But I always say that, how do you decide in that moment when, you're getting to know this person and you're finding out that, okay, he has he's a bit of damaged goods. Let's put it this way. How do you move forward? Because in your case, you decided to walk away because it was just too much to bear. But it was also triggering your damaged goods.
Yeah, it was triggering my baggage like crazy. And I think that was part of the wake-up call, that I realized how easily triggered I was. And I was turning into this monster that was just not me.
No.
And that's what scared me. I was like, why am I so insecure? It's like, I thought I was confident, but I was not confident at all. And all of that came together. I'm like, okay, something needs to change.
Yeah, and what I wanted to say was that you have to take, I guess, a decision that, okay, if this person, let's say the London guy, let's say in that moment when it started to become really difficult between you, if he had said, you know what, I'm realizing now that I need some additional help, maybe therapy, maybe, I don't know, something,
If that would have worked out.
Yeah, but maybe he would go on that journey and he would sort it himself out.
Yeah, I think maybe if, because I did the work as well. If he did the work, I did the work. But it's very easy to think about woulda, shoulda, coulda, you know?
Yeah,
What
that's
the
true.
perfect. I am so incredibly thankful that I met him, that I suffered, because in the end, if it wasn't for the suffering, I wouldn't have worked on myself and turned things around. So and I know law of attraction, people tend to push away the negatives, but sometimes these negative moments push you to be your best. And this negative moment pushed me to be my ultimate best in the end. It's very easy to blame a person, but I think the biggest eye opener for me was owning up to my role in the dysfunction and the codependency and the drama. Yeah,
Right.
lots of drama.
Because you took responsibility for yourself.
Personal responsibility for what I can control, which is me.
Yeah, I believe the people who achieve success in life are the ones who are self-aware.
Yes.
If you're not self-aware, you're always going to remain exactly where you are right now.
That's crucial, and it's an ongoing thing. It's not like I'm perfect now, but
No.
at least I'm working on myself, and my relationship is amazing because of that.
And that's, again, sorry, I'm going to probably be repeating, oh, I have the same story, because I was but I was also dysfunctional in my own sense, you know? And because I started sorting it out, I was so fed up of myself.
Yeah.
That motivated me to seek out professional help because I couldn't cope with myself anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
And because I sorted out myself, I gained a husband. Isn't
You
that
gained a
magical?
husband, but you gained yourself, right?
Yes,
so
of course.
I feel like right now, most probably you feel like you're at ease for being who you truly are.
Yeah, first I gained myself, then I gained a husband, and then the rest followed. you
And
know?
everything falls easily after that.
It's so interesting. It's so true because I feel like I became really successful after I took therapy.
Yeah, yeah. Though it definitely helps.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, the inner work is key.
It is. I do want to talk a little bit more about, because I know you had some intimacy fears. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, so intimacy fears, so if you look at the relationship with the London guy, it's like, let's say this is me and this is him. Whenever he would come closer and he wanted a relationship, I would kind of run away because someone coming close to me meant that he could see my imperfections. So I was so constantly trying to cover up those imperfections so that he would see the perfect to be fiance or to be girlfriend. And that was my own role in not being able to connect with someone or letting them come close. So intimacy fear was a big deal for me. I didn't even know about this until way later after I analyzed. And of course, you know, I'm a bit of a nerd. I read a lot of books and I kind of try, okay, I need to figure out what the hell the problem is here. And then I found out, I have intimacy fears and I can do something about it. And when you do that work, it's like the man falls into your lap, basically. That's a Dutch saying.
We do like that saying.
Yeah.
But so what was it that you did? Like, okay, when you realized that, what was like one of the things that you did that made you work on your intimacy fears?
I think I was someone who kept a lot in. And I never communicated with my partners. I was always dropping hints. I was walking on eggshells. So recognizing those patterns and reversing them and stopping myself when, even in my current relationship, there are going to be times where those intimacy fears come back up. And that's when you have to deal with them. So I think self-awareness and opening up yourself to love and to trusting someone else, that's a big deal. And you have to make that decision when you see that someone is a good guy, you've vetted him, you've known him for a while. You need to start opening up and perhaps let him see the cracks. And if he sees the cracks and he still loves you, that is when intimacy is starting to bond. You start to bond.
But do you remember any specific moment, let's say, when you're like catching yourself, like, oh no, I'm now acting on like I would usually do. I need to fix that and not do that. Like, do you remember anything in particular?
Yeah, so because you have all of that baggage, it's very easy to see things as negative. Let's say you have the baggage and someone did something to you and you think that the new person is going to do that to you too. Catching yourself in that moment and snapping awake, like, wait a minute, they're two totally different people. Someone can make a mistake or say the wrong thing. It doesn't have to mean that they're going to hurt you. And if you feel like something might be happening, how do you speak up? How do you address the situation instead of covering it up and being Miss Perfect and not talk about the difficult stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of people shut down because they want to protect themselves.
Yeah, I used to shut down a lot.
And I think, I mean, I know after therapy, after years in therapy, is that how do you fix that? Well, you fix that with self-awareness by catching yourself in the moment when that happens. And that's why therapy becomes so helpful, because it helps you think about your actions more often, because once a week or twice a week, you're sitting and talking about yourself. So it's becoming this habit of yours.
Yeah, self-awareness, journaling. And as you said, you have to have an idea of your negative response patterns. We all have negative response patterns, and we learned that from childhood.
Yeah.
When you're with your parents and you cry out for help, for love, and for whichever reason, they're preoccupied. They have their own things. They have their own lives and problems, right? They're not perfect. And that's when you start to learn, okay, is it safe to ask for love? Is it safe to depend on another? And that's a big thing for women, especially independent women, successful women. How am I going to let my guard down and let someone in while I'm perfectly capable of doing everything by myself and being self-reliant in that sense?
Soon we're going to come towards the end, but we're going to finish off with some frequently asked questions.
Oh, I love those.
Right?
Yeah.
Where to meet high quality men. What is your take on it?
I think they're everywhere, and I know everyone's rolling their eyes right now, but it takes being okay with who you are to connect with them on a deeper level, because you cannot see from someone's facade whether they're a high quality man or not. It's about how they treat you, how they treat other people. How will you find out unless you get to know them? Yeah.
Yes. But do you have any location in mind where you can find them?
I think the best way to do it would be to do things that you actually love and you're passionate about, where there are more people, also men, and also true friends. I think that's a really good one, because now in my fiance's circle, many of them met through friends of friends. That's another way. But I still stick by Tinder. Yeah. And I know people might again be rolling their eyes. But I think Tinder has the highest amount of men, the bigger quantity of men. Yeah.
In my experience, I do recommend kind of what we spoke about earlier. Try not to focus on the big cities. Try to maybe narrow it down, like to some small. That's why I don't want ladies to be so allergic to places where they think like, oh no, there's no quantity here, I'm not going to bother. No, actually bother, because sometimes it is about a little bit time and place, right? So it is important that you are not afraid of putting yourself out in like smaller locations, more quiet locations.
Yeah.
Although there's still some form of life there, right?
Obviously.
Yeah, we can't just go on a deserted island and think we're gonna meet someone.
Yeah, it's the one man.
Yeah. Although you see, that would actually make it very easy to meet someone.
Actually, yes. Yeah, I think so.
So that's kind of my philosophy, that sometimes when there's less noise, less people around, it actually becomes easier to meet someone.
Yeah, but at the same time also being open to be surprised, because sometimes we think the man is going to look like this and that. As I said, you look for the perfect profile. But ultimately, the true connection you can only feel when you see them in person.
Yeah. And just to kind of also add a little bit to, well, what about the high quality parts? And I think that it's important to learn the warning signs.
Yeah. I
for
think
bad quality.
For bad quality, I think what was a game changer for me is to start to tune in with my own feelings. How does this guy make me feel when I'm with him and when I'm not with him? If you start to feel really bad when you're with him and without him, the question is, what are we doing here? Is it a relationship that's going to help you feel at your best, to be your best? Most probably not.
How do we spot these high quality men?
How to spot them? I guess the only way to spot would be to observe how he treats others and how he treats you, how he treats his family, how he treats animals.
Oh gosh, yes.
That's important too.
I mean, the person clearly lacks empathy if he mistreats animals.
Yeah. No, I can't. It doesn't matter how perfect he is. If I see any of that, it's over.
I could never be with a man who, like, I don't know, hits a dog or something.
No, that's a red flag for me.
No,
Yeah.
oh, that's something I can't handle.
And
Oh.
another thing as well, I realized that emotionally healthy men have great friends and things to do after work,
That's true.
people to connect with. That's something that I realized as well.
Yeah, I think a destructive man will have destructive habits on the side.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to mean that he's now a cheater, but he might be, I don't know, abusing alcohol a bit, partying too much,
Yeah.
gambling too much.
Yeah, yeah. That's those are red flags for sure. Yeah.
So, but again, it doesn't mean that you now have to dump him. Maybe you can, I don't know, help inspire him to improve somehow.
You can, but again, I'm a bit controversial when I think that you have to accept the man as he is, not what his potential is. So if right now he's doing these destructive things, I see lots of women that think, well, maybe it's going to change, maybe this, maybe that. But accept him as he is, because that's what you're dealing with right now. And if you can't handle that, then sometimes you have to choose yourself. Because lots of women find themselves in a role where they're helping, you know, like, oh, go to AA, let me help you. And then he's not helping himself. What's going on here? And then it's codependent.
And what is a high quality man to you? Do you think that a high value man or high quality man is the same for everyone?
I don't think so. And what I see a lot on the forums and in Facebook groups and on YouTube is that they tend to see a high value man as someone who is successful or someone who's handsome and successful. But for me, a high value man is a man that treats you like a princess, someone that puts you first, that cherishes you. That's how I see a high value man when it comes to dating. And a high value man in general is just a man that is emotionally available, that is kind to others, that doesn't snap at the waiter or, as you said, mistreat animals. Yeah, that's for me.
Yeah. And why do you think it's so difficult, like, especially, I think many of you ladies can agree, why is it so difficult for decent women to meet decent quality men?
That's a really good question.
Why is it so hard? Because there's so many amazing women out there. I'm sure many of you are watching this video right now.
And I asked myself the same question because I had a successful career. I was looking good. I was investing in my appearance. And I just asked myself, what the hell is going on? I mean, I did all the things that I thought was going to get me married to this awesome, amazing guy, but I just wasn't getting those dates or connecting with those that I truly wanted. And I think the difference is, first of all, to open up your mind, to open up yourself to experiencing different types of men. That is one. Dating multiple men. And when I say dating, I don't mean sleeping around. I mean just getting to know them as human being, and may the best one win. That's the only way. And at the end, opening up yourself and your heart to trusting someone ultimately and connecting. That is what helps. So, and I think as someone who was very much successful and good looking, focusing on my career, I thought that entitled me to a relationship with a man that was great too. But what ultimately led me to my relationship is being authentic and confident and seeing him as who he was and connecting with him on a deeper emotional level.
Right. And another frequently asked question that both you and me get a lot is, where do we find commitment-minded men?
Oh, it's like they're hiding in the basement somewhere.
That's like another breed of men that we sometimes think
doesn't
where are
exist.
they? It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think when you're commitment-minded yourself, and I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, but how often do you waste time with the guys who are not commitment-minded and you let go of the ones that are? If you have that pattern, then there's something to be done there. So I think dating multiple men and only accepting those that are serious about you, that care about you, that cherish you, but not chasing the ones that are emotionally unavailable and not commitment-minded.
But that's kind of what we were speaking about earlier. You need to learn the warning flags.
Yeah.
I mean, from my experience with my work as well, I would also say from my experiences with regular friends, my mind blows of how many women keep repeating the same mistakes.
Yeah.
It's like they don't pick up of the warning signs when it's so obvious, right?
Yeah, the problem is that from childhood onwards, you have certain patterns ingrained in you. If you're someone that's performing for love, someone that's walking on eggshells because you're afraid of being yourself, it's very heavily ingrained in you. And sometimes it takes a lot of work to step out of that. But for me, the answer is not in these dating and relationship books that are bestsellers. The answer for me was how to build that emotional connection with a man, how to be emotionally available, and how to be confident. Those three things, miracle workers. So when you do those three things, you'll find him in a few months for sure. And you, again, don't settle for those guys that are not commitment minded. Because lots of women say, like, I said I wanted a relationship, but who was I entertaining?
Yeah.
Someone who wasn't sure, someone who was perhaps as emotionally unavailable as I was. So it takes recognizing that.
Yeah, and I think many women, they stay for too long with someone who's not serving them.
Yeah.
And of course, we have some women who are just like, okay, don't even give a chance to some men too, because they're too protective of themselves. So it's about finding the balance, I guess, right?
It is a balance. You don't want to give your heart to just any person, right? You need to, of course, have your own internal boundaries that you protect yourself.
Yeah.
But what I see a lot, especially with successful women, as was with my story, you focus on your career, you're so used to putting in the work to get a result. And they think that performing and being perfect and looking perfect and speaking and saying the right things is going to land you the guy. It's actually being in tune with who you truly are and being confident with that. That's going to make him be like, oh, she's different. I can trust her. There's something about her.
Ladies who follow me know how much I talk about you cannot focus on trying to become perfect or like look just perfect all the time. You have to like also be yourself in the mix. That's why I, when I teach elegance, I refer to modern elegance. I don't want any of my ladies to be stiff and boring.
No, that's
be
not
yourselves.
I mean, if and again, and a bit controversial, if you're a boring person, you can be authentically boring and still find a man.
Yes, of
so
course.
it's just be who you want to be ultimately, and of course the best version of yourself. And this is again black and white thinking. It's all a fine balance.
Before we end, I want to actually ask you, because I know you work with clients. How do you work with people? Like, what is it that you offer? What you do? How does it work to being coached by you?
Yeah, so there are two things. Of course, I have the mastermind for women that want like-minded women around them and follow the course with me, group coaching every single week. You have that. Then there's one-on-one.
Right.
And in the future, I will be doing small workshops so that it's accessible to everyone.
That's good.
Just specific topics like, for example, how to be your authentic self, how to gain confidence, or how to craft a perfect online dating profile. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
I get that a lot.
Do you have something like that right now? Or
Not now, but I will, in
it
the
will
future.
be on alexisglam.com. Don't
Yes,
forget.
go to alexisglam.com/Anna for something special.
Ooh, you have prepared something
Yes,
special.
I will.
Ladies, can't miss out on that one.
It's a secret.
Is Instagram where you're the most active, or where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, but most of the time I'm working with my clients.
Right.
Yeah. So I think if you're someone who just doesn't want to figure it out on your own, because of course you can figure it out on your own, but it might take you more time. If you're someone who wants to cut to the chase and have a formula, then I'm here.
Now, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and please let me know in the comments below what you thought of this format, because I truly enjoy being my more casual Anna for a change, instead of always being in my kind of teacher role Anna on this channel, the type of Anna that you're used to seeing. So if you would like a more unfiltered, less scripted, more casual, conversational type of format on this channel, please let me know in the comments. This doesn't mean that I'm not going to do the old format, but I'd love to mix it up a little bit. I also must make you aware that as the holidays are coming up, I will be taking a YouTube break. So this is the last video for 2022. So you're not going to see any more videos for this year, but I will be back first week of January. And actually, I want to share a little secret with you. Nobody knows about this yet, so you're the first to know. I have decided that I want to also do some changes in my life in 2023. So I'm gonna set up this little group activity that you will be able to join me for, where we're gonna kickstart 2023 together and with a bang. because I really want to level up a few things in my life. There are certain things that I've been a little bit unhappy with lately that I feel like enough is enough. I want to take action to actually change things around. And I want to do that together with you. So if that's something that you would like to join me for, make sure you go to this link, annabay.email, and sign up for my weekly emails, because you're going to get notified what we have cooking for you and how we can make 2023 our best year ever. So having said this, ladies, I really wish you a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. I will be seeing you around the new year. All the best until then. Thank you for watching.